Ara was just 19 years old when she sat in her late father's study, facing her stepmother. The pain of her father's burial was still fresh. She could almost hear his loving voice in her head. But what happened next broke her even more. Her stepmother, the same woman who had hugged her at the funeral and told her, "I'll take care of you," now showed her true colors. She held the will, the only proof that Ara was meant to inherit anything, and right before Ara's eyes, she ripped it apart. "You're not getting anything," the woman said coldly. "I need the money to pay for my son's bride price. You'll survive. Go figure out your life." Ara was frozen in shock. That was her father's last gift to her, gone in seconds. The house, the land, the savings, everything was taken from her just like that. She didn't even get a chance to speak or fight back. Her voice was too small and her heart too broken, so she packed what little she had, walked out of the house her father built, and stepped into a world that didn't care who she was or what she had lost. But as she walked away, one thing stayed inside her, a quiet fire, a silent promise. She would not forget, she would not forgive. And one day, when they least expected it, she would return, not as the broken girl they threw out, but as someone powerful enough to shake their world. Ara left the village with nothing but a small bag of clothes and her father's photo. No one stopped her. No one cared. Her stepmother had made it clear she was not wanted. So Ara ran, with tears in her eyes and fire in her heart, to the capital city of Adera. The city was loud, fast, and cold. Nobody knew her name, and nobody asked. She started from the bottom, doing any job she could find, cleaning offices at night, serving food during the day, and running errands in between. 3 jobs, no rest, barely any sleep, all just to afford a tiny mattress in a crowded room she shared with 5 other girls. The walls were thin, the floor cold, and some nights she went to bed hungry, but she never complained. Every night, before sleeping, she would hold the photo of her father close and whisper, "I'll get it all back," and more. Those words became her fuel. Her pain became her power. While other girls spent their free time watching movies or gossiping, Ara read books, taught herself how to type fast, speak well, and understand business. She wanted more than just to survive. She wanted to rise. She wanted to become someone her stepmother would never dare look down on again. There were nights she cried quietly into her pillow, remembering the life she lost, her father's laughter, the smell of his old books, the way he used to call her "my smart girl." But then she'd wipe her tears and get back to work. Slowly, her steps got stronger, her voice got clearer, her eyes started to see the world differently. Ara wasn't just that broken girl anymore. She was building herself piece by piece. She was no longer begging life to be kind. She was preparing to take back everything they stole, and even more. One rainy morning, after delivering food to an office building, Ara saw a notice on the wall. "Intern needed. No experience required." Her heart skipped. It was for a new tech company called Zenix Solutions. She didn't know much about tech, but she knew how to work hard. Without thinking twice, she wrote her name and number. The next day, they called her for an interview. The office was small, but serious. Everything moved fast. Everyone looked busy. Ara sat nervously until a tall, quiet man walked in. He didn't smile. He didn't even ask many questions. That was Bayameki, the CEO. People said he was sharp, private, and never wasted time. After a few minutes of watching her answer questions honestly, he looked at her and said, "You start tomorrow." At first, Ara just made coffee, answered phones, and organized files, but she always paid attention. She listened during meetings. She stayed late to learn the software the others used. She never complained, never slacked. Slowly, she started giving ideas, quiet ones, smart ones. When others didn't notice small mistakes, Ara did. When a big client nearly pulled out, it was Ara who spotted the error in the contract. Bai noticed. He began giving her more tasks, and she did them better than anyone expected. In 1 year, she became his personal assistant. In 2 years, she was trusted with sensitive documents, big presentations, and company plans. Bai, who barely spoke more than 10 words a day, started talking to her more, not just about work, but life, dreams, fears. She listened, always calm, always loyal. By the 3rd year, she wasn't just an assistant, she was his right hand. And though no one said it out loud, something unspoken grew between them. a gentle understanding, a quiet connection. When she smiled, he smiled too. When she was stressed, he noticed. Ara didn't chase love. She didn't even expect it. But somehow, this job, which started as a small chance, became the door to everything she never thought she deserved: respect, purpose, and maybe love. The girl who was once thrown out with nothing was now standing beside one of the most powerful men in the city, and she had earned every step. The board gala was a big event. Lights everywhere, music playing softly, and powerful people from all over Adera, dressed in their best clothes. It was held in a fancy hotel ballroom, full of rich business owners, investors, and media. Ara wore a simple but elegant navy blue dress. She stood quietly by the corner, as always, helping to make sure everything went smoothly. She never liked attention. She had always been the girl behind the scenes, the one who made sure others shined. But tonight would be different. As the evening moved on, Ameki stepped onto the stage to give his usual speech. People clapped, expecting another serious business talk. But this time, his voice was different, softer, emotional. He talked about trust, loyalty, and growth. He talked about how success is not just about money, but about the people who stand beside you when you're building from the ground up. Then he paused. The room went quiet. "The person I trust the most," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd, "is also the one I love." Whispers began to spread. He looked directly at Ara, who was standing near the edge of the crowd. Slowly, he walked down from the stage and stood in front of her. "Ara," he said, his voice shaking just a little, "will you marry me?" Gasps filled the room. Phones flashed, cameras clicked. People froze in surprise. Ara didn't move for a second. Her heart was beating fast. She looked around, unsure if it was a dream, but it was real. The same girl who once slept on the floor in a crowded room was now being proposed to by one of the most respected men in the city. With tears in her eyes and a soft smile on her lips, she nodded. "Yes!" The room exploded with cheers. Some people clapped, some cried, and many couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. In that moment, Ara wasn't just a former orphan or a hard-working assistant. She was Bayameki's future wife. She had climbed from the bottom, not by begging, not by pretending, but by being herself, by working hard, staying true, and never giving up. This wasn't just a proposal. It was a full-circle moment. The girl they once threw away had now become the woman everyone admired. It was a normal morning at the office. Ara had arrived early, as usual, dressed in her clean, smart outfit, ready to begin her day. She had a cup of tea in her hand and was sorting through reports when she heard Bai's voice from his office. His door was slightly open, and his tone was sharp, louder than normal. Ara paused, curious, because Bai rarely raised his voice. "Tell Olamide," Bai said firmly over the phone. "If he messes up one more deal, he's done. I don't care who he is. This is business." Ara froze. That name, Olamide. It hit her like a cold wave. Her hands trembled, and her heart started beating fast. She hadn't heard that name in years. Olamide, her stepmother's only son, the one her father treated like his own, while Ara was always left behind, the one her stepmother used her inheritance to pay bride price for, the same boy who stood and watched when her name was torn off her father's will. She took a deep breath and stood still. Her past, the one she thought she had left behind, had walked straight into her new world without warning. But the strange thing, he didn't even know she was here. He had no idea she had changed her name. He didn't know she was now Mrs. Ara Ameke, the wife of the CEO, the boss's partner, the woman he unknowingly worked under. Ara didn't rush. She didn't panic. Instead, a small knowing smile appeared on her face. The universe had brought him right to her feet, without her lifting a finger. She didn't need revenge through fighting. She already had the power. Her silence was now louder than any scream. Olamide didn't know yet, but his life was about to take a turn he never saw coming. And Ara, she was ready. The same girl he thought was weak, now had the power to decide his future. The big day came like any other, but for Ara, it was more than special. She dressed carefully that morning, choosing an elegant emerald green dress that hugged her figure in all the right places. Her hair was done neatly, makeup soft but powerful. She looked like a woman who belonged in charge, because now she was. Not just a worker in the company, but Mrs. Ara Amike, the wife of the CEO. And today, She was about to face someone from her painful past. She walked confidently through the office halls, heels clicking, every step filled with quiet power. The boardroom was full of staff waiting for a new supervisor. Olamide was sitting at the head of the table, relaxed, expecting just another boring meeting. But when Ara opened the door and stepped in, the room went quiet. Olamide looked up, blinked, then blinked again. He stood up, his face full of confusion and disbelief. "Wait, Ara?" Before he could finish, Ara raised her hand slightly and spoke, calm and clear. "Mr. Enkay has asked me to take over your division," she said. "Congratulations, Olamide. I'm your new supervisor." The silence in the room was loud. Everyone stared. Olamide's mouth was open, but no words came out. His face lost color. His hands trembled slightly. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The same girl his mother threw out like trash, the one who once slept on a thin mattress in a crowded city room, was now standing in front of him as his boss. The sister he stole from, the girl whose inheritance helped pay for his bride price. Now, she had power over his position, his job, his future. Ara looked at him with calm eyes. She didn't need to scream or remind him of the past. Her presence was enough. Her success spoke louder than any revenge. Olamide couldn't even look her in the eye. And as Ara turned to begin the meeting, her heart was steady. She didn't need to punish him directly. Just being in that room, as his superior, was enough. Ara didn't rush. She knew revenge tasted better when served slowly and smartly. Every day she watched Olamide closely, never letting him see her plan. He still acted proud, still believed no one could touch him. But Ara was already steps ahead. She started with the company record. Long nights, quiet digging. She went through old files, signed contracts, and money transferred. And then she found it. Olamide had been moving company funds, hiding numbers, faking reports, making secret deals with outside vendors. The most painful part, he had used part of her stolen inheritance to cover up his dirty tracks. Ara felt the anger rise in her chest, but she didn't show it. She remained calm, focused. She made copies of every document, every fake signature, every illegal deal. She kept everything in a locked folder only she could access. Every time she saw him laugh in the office, she smiled too, because she knew something he didn't. His end was near. She didn't just want to get him fired. That was too easy. Ara wanted the world to see who he really was. A liar, a fraud, a man who built his career on stolen money. She waited for the company's annual review meeting. The entire board would be present. Bai, her husband, the CEO, would also be there. It was the perfect stage. That day, she wore black, sharp, sleek, powerful. She walked into the boardroom with a calm face and a heavy file in her hand. No one suspected a thing. And when her turn came to speak, she stood up and gently placed the documents on the table. "Before we continue," she said, "I believe the board should be aware of some irregular activities in the finance department." Olamide froze in his seat. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't angry. She was composed. But her words hit like thunder. Page by page, she laid out the truth, the lies, the theft, the betrayal. And just like that, Olamide's world began to crumble. The night was bright and full of energy. Bai had planned a big dinner for the whole company. The room was filled with important people, investors, business partners, and top staff. Everyone was smiling, eating, laughing. No one expected what was coming. Not even Olamide. Ara sat beside Bai, calm and beautiful, her eyes scanning the room. She had waited for this moment for so long. Tonight wasn't just about good food and speeches. Tonight was the night the truth would come out in front of everyone. After the meal, Bai stood and welcomed everyone. He thanked the staff for their hard work. Then he turned to Ara and said, "My wife has prepared a short presentation. I think it's something we should all see." Everyone clapped politely. Ara walked up to the screen, holding a remote. She smiled softly and said, "This is a case study I've been working on for months. It shows how trust can be broken inside a company and how we can fix it." The slides began. At first, it was numbers, graphs, and charts. She spoke in a calm, clear voice. Then came the shocking part, a list of hidden payments, fake receipts, and secret accounts. People started whispering. Then she clicked to the final slide. It was a video, a CCV clip. On the screen, everyone saw Olamide, clearly caught on camera, in a secret meeting. taking money under the table. His face was clear. His voice was recorded. There was no escape. The room went silent. All eyes turned to Olamide. He was frozen, his mouth open, face pale. Some investors stood up in shock. Phones started flashing. A few gasped. One man spilled his drink. Bai slowly looked at Ara. "You knew?" he asked softly. Ara looked him in the eye and nodded once. "Yes," she said simply. Olamide tried to speak, but no one listened. His lies had ended. And Ara? She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just walked back to her seat with calm steps. A woman who had waited, planned, and finally won. Olamide's disgrace spread like wildfire. His face was on every blog, newspaper and news station in Adira. Corruption scandal at Amika Tech. The headlines screamed. Investors backed out. His bank accounts were frozen. His wedding? Cancelled just a week before the date. The bride's family said they didn't want shame tied to their name. But that was only the beginning. One hot afternoon, the gates of Bai's mansion swung open with force. A black SUV rushed in and stopped sharply. From it came the woman Ara hadn't seen in years. Her stepmother. She didn't wait for permission. She stormed into the living room, her voice loud and angry. "Where is she? Where is that girl?" Ara came down the stairs, dressed in silk, calm like a queen. Her heels clicked softly on the marble floor. She stood at the foot of the staircase, eyes cold but calm. The stepmother pointed at her, face red with anger. "You! What are you doing? What is all this nonsense in the news? You're destroying my son's future. You're embarrassing us." Ara didn't raise her voice. She didn't even blink. She just walked closer until she was face to face with the woman who once tore her name from her father's will. "You came to my house," Ara said slowly. "You barged into my life again. But this time, I'm not the quiet girl you pushed away." Her stepmother scoffed. "I did what I had to. You had nothing. You were just a girl." Ara smiled, but it was the kind of smile that sent chills. "Yes," she whispered. "I had nothing, but I built something. I worked hard. I rose. I married the man your son works for." She paused and leaned forward just a little. "And now, your son calls me Mom." The room went silent. The stepmother stared, speechless. Ara straightened and turned away, walking back up the stairs without another word. Bai appeared from another room, quietly watching the scene unfold. "Escort her out," he told the guards gently. As the stepmother was led away, her face was full of regret, not for what she had done, but because the girl she once threw away had now become untouchable. Ara didn't look back. She didn't need revenge anymore. She had already won. After everything that happened, the downfall, the exposure, the shame brought to her stepmother and Olamide, Bai sat beside Ara one evening with serious eyes. "If you want," he said gently, "we can press charges. He stole from you. They both did. They should pay." Ara looked at him, calm and collected, her eyes full of something deeper than anger. "No," she said softly. "I didn't fight to destroy them. I fought to free myself from them." She meant every word. She had already taken back her power. Now, she wanted to use it to help others who were just like her, lost, abandoned, and overlooked. Instead of revenge, she chose purpose. Ara took a large part of her restored inheritance and launched a foundation in her father's name, a safe place for orphaned girls and young women who had no one to protect them. She called it the Hope House, and soon it became one of the most respected charities in Adira. She visited the girls often, not as a rich woman in heels, but as someone who understood their pain. She shared her story of loss, betrayal, survival, and reminded them that they were more than their pasts. The city watched in amazement. The once forgotten girl had become a woman of power, not just with money or title, but with heart. One day, during a big event for the foundation, a journalist asked her, "What gave you the strength to keep going?" Ara smiled, the same soft, knowing smile she wore when she first took charge of her life. And then she said the words that would echo across the country. "They took my name off a will, but I wrote it into history." And just like that, Ara became more than a survivor. She became a legend. If this story moved you, don't scroll without sharing it. Tag someone who needs to hear this. Your past doesn't define you. Your rise does. Drop it in the comments if Ara inspired you. Follow for more powerful stories that remind you the tables always turn.